Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here are your hosts, Mark Ellison, Shannon Donato, and Jeremy Monahan.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. What If has you covered for accommodation, flights, car hire and more. So if you're looking for a holiday, travelling for business, or you need to get to the next game, visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs. What If, it's Aussie for travel. My name's Jeremy Monahan. I'd like to welcome my co-hosts again for episode 7. And they said we never make it, boys, all the way to 7. But my co-host...
Have, Jez. Not right if they're talking about my football career.
How are you this morning, Yellow?
Yeah, very well, Jez. Another exciting victory over last weekend. So as we keep it up this week, it'll be good.
Absolutely. Shannon, how are you this morning?
I'm very well. Enjoying these early morning starts. Fantastic. I saw you chirpy as you came in this morning, Jez. Always a pleasure.
I think I still had my pillow attached to the side of my head when I walked in this morning.
I couldn't tell the difference.
Well, you didn't have your pajamas on, mate. We're all happy about that.
I thought we might start this week with some shout-outs and wanted to thank everyone who've left 5-star reviews for us and some comments on their chosen podcast platforms for the Rabbitohs podcast network. They've gone to the effort to do that. So I wanted to thank Sec2035, Ali Bird 74, Adam Maddo, Kieran, Triff81, Rob Trelaw, and John of Coogee for their reviews over the past month. We really appreciate the feedback. And actually, Triff81 suggested one of our topics for the show today. So if anyone has any suggestions about topics that they want us to delve into with our top 4 topics, please feel free to send them through and we will we'll have a look at them. So it's good to see that people are enjoying the show.
Yeah, I got Mum to send 17 in last week for us too, Jess. So she was very good. She didn't know how to do it, but I did it for her. So, it was good.
In typical Ellison fashion, you only asked her to send 1 and she sent 17.
Listen. This is getting a bit nasty. This is nastier than the fat jokes.
Oh, don't worry. I can feel them coming.
I was going to say, we're slow out of the blocks this morning.
I can see them coming, Shannon.
There we go. We are 2 minutes 43 in. That might be a new record anyway. We'll go to our first discussion point, and it's something that we've learned this week. We'll start with you, Shannon.
Okay. I learnt this week that sometimes birthdays can be overrated. I turned the grand old age of 46, and first of all, my wife forgot my birthday. She said, when's your birthday? I said, April 3rd. She said, oh, yeah, I knew that. But what year? I said, every year. It's April. So she asked me what I wanted, and always been a bit of a rev head, and I know we've got Sutton's, the great guys down there who do great deals on cars. I said, I want something that goes from 0 to 120 in under 3 seconds. And sure enough, the next day, there was a little box, and I unwrapped it, and I was thinking, what could it be? I know Sutton sell all different types of cars. Something goes from 0 to 120 in under 3 seconds. And I opened it up, and sure enough, there was a set of scales. So, yes, birthdays are overrated. Very good. But you know what? It was a square up last year for her birthday. I said to her, Gab, what would you like for your birthday? She thought about it for a while, and she said, I'd love to go somewhere we haven't been for a while. So I took her into the kitchen.
Oh, dear. I think she'll forget your birthday.
Yeah, she will too. I think that's been rubber stamped already. Over to you, Ella. What's something you've learnt this week?
Oh, it's learnt that, it's a long time since we were in lockdown last year. We're now 12 months past it, just over 12 months. The borders ran back to New Zealand, so it's great that we're back, that the economy's got to that stage, and relationships between countries over here are able to open the borders up. And it's good that people can be able to travel outside Australia and as well as in Australia. So it's a good progression. It's the start of the opening of the borders. We probably thought at times, when is this ever going to come, And I'm sure What If's got some great deals that they can send over to people over to New Zealand with and things like that. So keep your eyes out there. One story, though, back with the talking about Shannon, but it was April last year. I remember walking along Coogee Beach with a friend of mine who will remain unnamed. We were walking along, and on his phone came up that all bottle shops were closing at midnight that night. You know, there was all this scare about the, going into lockdown, and you remember it was frightening. Everyone was buying up on toilet paper, and the bottle shops were getting flooded with people and that. And it happened to be April Fool's Day joke. So the worst part about it was we were walking on the beach and we turned on a dime when we saw it to get home as quick as we could to get to the bottle shop. That's all we had in the lockdown, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
It speaks a lot about the Australian culture, We're going into lockdown and all everybody's worried about is getting to the bottle shop.
Yeah. It's true. Something I've learned this week, the Royal Easter Show is bloody expensive when you've got a 5-year-old.
Yes.
My daughter went to the Easter show yesterday with her grandmother, my mum, and my sister, her auntie, and she got home at about 10:30 last night, absolutely buggered, off her face, just so tired, with her arms full of show bags, wanting to open them all up last night, and there was just crap everywhere in my house, and my wallet's empty. So
Yes.
I'm blaming her grandmother for that visit. So this is my tip for families. If you're thinking of heading to the Easter show on Thursday, when you're parking in P1, don't go to the Easter show, walk into Stadium Australia and come and watch the Rabbitohs take on the Broncos. That's my tip.
I've got to applaud you, Jez. How did you get out of going to the show with them all?
Had to work, Ella.
Oh,
Well
Tuesdays are a big day, Ella.
yeah,
well
Tuesdays are a big day.
would have been a lot more expensive for you guys.
Yeah, right.
Pluto pups and all
Those
that.
curly fries on a stick. Those things amaze me. I'm blown away by those things.
Had to check them out 4 times.
Just to make sure they're cooked properly. Very good, righto. We'll head into our first top 4 topic of the morning, and that is the one that Triff81 sent through to us last week, and it was the top 4 best tries that you've seen scored. I might start with you, Shannon.
Okay, thanks, Jez. I'm sure every Rabbitohs member and fan and anybody who loves rugby league remembers this try. It was against the Broncos in 2014 up at Suncorp. It was Anzac Day, and it was the great Greg Inglis. He picked the ball up on our own 10-metre line in the southeastern corner of Suncorp Stadium, and he dead set beat 8 people, ran. Even though it was 90 metres to the try line, running crossfield, he must have run 140 metres. And as I said, beat 8 people. It was one of the all-time great tries. And whenever we play the Broncos, I always think about that try against the Broncos up at Suncorp. It was fantastic. So I'm hoping somebody, AJ or one of the boys, can replicate it this Thursday night against the Broncos. What a try that was.
I was hoping I went first today because that's could be the greatest try I've ever seen. And I was lucky enough to be sitting on the sideline and watch it unfold. And, the number of players he beat that night and how he did it. And, some of them got their hands on him and he just shrugged them off. Even the last couple of moments of it, they get him off balance and he just manages to get himself in the right frame to be able to get over that line and put the ball down.
That's right. He slides on his knee right near the end, doesn't he?
Yeah. It was
and gets
just
up and jumps again.
One of the great tries.
I'm down to 3 as well now.
Yeah.
But a story about that try. So I was at Suncorp that night in the press box, and there was one journo there from Sydney. Josh Massoud was there. There was me, and then the rest of their press box was full of Brisbane journos. And up there, despite being against the rules, they're quite parochial for their team up there, all the journos, and they'll cheer tries and clap and everything. And not supposed to happen, but it does. And when Greg took off on that run, I've never heard a press box so quiet. And I was sitting in the second row, Josh was sitting in the front row, and I just saw him rising out of his seat, just standing up, and he just started cheering Greg on.
Yeah.
And Josh isn't any sort of South fan at all, but he was just saying, score it. This is the story of the night. Score it. And he scored it, and then him and me to start cheering, and all the other journos, the Brisbane ones, are sitting there with their heads down. And I just thought, that's what it's about.
Indeed, yeah.
So good.
I must say too, just jumping again, sorry Shannon, but one of the most memorable moments I've ever seen in our review room or video room at South Sydney was when Kathy Freeman came in. I think we've spoken about before in 2014, before the grand final, to help to present Greg with his jersey. Leroy, our analyst, had put this video together, highlighting both of their performances. And what he did, he started off with Greg starting at the first about 15 metres of his run, and then cut in Kathy taking off on the blocks of the in the final of the 400 in 2000. And then as it went on and it finished with Greg putting the ball down and Kathy getting over the line for the gold medal. I've got goosebumps thinking about it now, but it was magnificent. That's how good a try it was, and that's how good her run was.
Certainly was. It's a shame she didn't get the ball down. She was held up. But,
that's because no one could get near her.
Oh, excellent. Right, try number 2.
Number 2 is another Greg Inglis special, and I'm sure most rugby league fans will remember this one too in the centenary test at the SCG, and the athleticism.
I've got 2 left, Jez.
It was one of those unbelievably athletic feats. He was dead set in the air. Well, first of all, he caught the ball in the goal. Well, he didn't catch it. It landed in his arms, bounced off his chest, went forward and went over the dead ball line, and everybody assumed that it was going to be dead. But he's jumped from the in goals in the air, tapped the ball back over his head, and Mark Gasnier gets a try. Whenever they talk about it, they never say Mark Gasnier's try. They say that try that Greg Inglis set up. That was certainly a great try, and a centenary test, a historic moment for the game. So I think Greg will be remembered for those two for a long time. The third one, I dare say you guys might have this one as well, is George Burgess's try in the 2014 Grand Final.
Yep.
It's going to be a short segment this week.
Yeah. I've gone down from 15 to 12 now.
Here's a tip to all of us. Let's cross-reference our notes beforehand. Yeah, that try in the 2014 Grand Final, it was just an amazing feat of strength, power. At such a crucial moment, it was 6-6 still at the game and about just over 20 minutes to go. And George was great, but Appy was really good too. He steps to the right, commits one of the markers, passes the ball in front of the guy who plays the ball. George gets the ball. He sort of steps off the right and beats the first marker. Charges into big Tony Williams. Yeah. Massive frame.
What about the research here, Jess?
I know.
No, I remember this.
I wonder we haven't signed any sponsors this week.
Tony Williams is 125, 130 kilos. He's just lighter than Ello, but he's a massive man, and he's just bumped him off like he was a 6-year-old, and then she keeps on charging, runs over the top of the poor fullback. I think that was Sammy Perrott. Runs over. I thought he was going to keep running through to the bloody train station at home, but it was just nothing could stop him, and it was, as I said, it was a crucial point. It was 6-6, and from that point on, the floodgates opened. So that was a really, really big try, not just in terms of that game or the grand final, but in the history of the Rabbitohs. That was a very, very big try. And I've got a feeling I might take you fourth as well here, gents. Well, let's see. Bobby McCarthy, 1967 grand final.
Not me.
Oh, well, there you go. I first of all, Mac is one of my favourites. He was a mate of my dad's and just all-round great guy, still is. Bob and Judy and even the kids, and Darren coached me for a little bit here at the lower grades at South, so I've always had a soft spot for Bobby. But that try in the 1967 grand final was just before half time. It was again a crucial time in the game, and their hooker Cole Brown throws a long pass, which was not common at all for hookers back then. Threw a long pass and wasn't a beat. Poor old for Cole, because Bobby scooped it up and he ran, 70 metres or so, 60, 70 metres for the try. And people may or may not know, that's pretty well documented, that Bobby did his hemi at about halfway through to the line there, and kept running and kept outpacing everybody with a torn hemi. I don't know how painful that could be, but I could imagine. I don't have hamstrings, but that's a great effort in it just before half time, busting the game open. So my 4 tries are GIs in Anzac Day 2014 against the Broncos. GIs won in the Centenary Test. George Burgess in that grand final, and Bobby McCarthy in the 1967 grand final.
Very good selection there. Very good selection.
They are.
Over to you, Ello, for your remaining try.
Yeah, Well, you always have to have a couple extra in case whoever you ask to go first. Yes. Maybe we can toss for that before we come on. Well, I mean, those tries were fantastic. Greg's one will live with me forever. I think it's undoubtedly the best individual try I've ever seen. There's no doubt about that. But one really memorable try, and it didn't involve Rabbitoh players. It goes back, I was only pretty young back in the 1980 grand final. The Roosters played the Bulldogs, and I think the Roosters were favourites to win it. But Greg Brentnell made this break and put this huge bomb up on the run, heading towards the member stand end of the SCG. And Steve Gearin chased it, and I think the bloke Michaels was the winger for the Roosters. I think, and Marty Kerr was their fullback. And those days it was just a regulation sort of catch, but Gearin climbed up over the top of him like an AFL player, caught the ball and scored the try and put the game out of reach. I don't know if you remember it. You might not have been born back then, Jez. I'm not sure. But,
I was 3, but I've seen the replay.
You've seen the replay.
Yeah.
It's one of the great tries, and on a great stage, grand final day. So that's one thing I do remember.
Hello, that mightn't be a Rabbitohs try, but you know what? It's against the Roosters, so it's just as good.
We'll claim it.
That's probably why I was so excited about it. And they lost too.
Yeah, everyone's a winner.
Oh, that's unusual, isn't it? No, mate, another one. Obviously, I remember I've spoken many times about Phil Blake. We played the Broncos at the old Lang Park one day, and the game was still in the balance. And Phil Blake, as we said, we used to say, make our tackles, kick the ball long, and get the ball to Phil Blake. That was basically our game plan. And we had the team that could do all the other stuff, and we had him that score the tries. And he just chipped over the top. It was about halfway, and the ball was bouncing a little bit oddly. Him and the fullback from the Broncos were about to catch it, and he just kicked it again without touching it. Just kicked it over his head, scored on the post. Game over. But again, just one of those freakish players that could do that. And like Greg, in a different way, Greg had the power and everything like that. Blakey had the speed and that. But they were players that could do things that no one else could do in the game. And that's what made them so memorable, I suppose. And one from another Rossi Harrington. It wasn't this magnificent try, but it was the what he left behind him in scoring it. It was at the heading was it at Redfern Oval in front of the old Perouse Hill there. He took on Gary Worth, and Gary Worth had a headgear on. He just bumped him off, ran straight over the top of him and scored in the corner. Poor old Gary Worth was just left on the ground.
Oh.
I think he knocked him out trying to tackle him, but that was just Roscoe. He just had that much power when he ran, and that's, it wasn't memorable for anything but his determination to score the try. And I had to come up with that one pretty quickly because Shannon stole all the other ones.
We had some great power wingers in that era, didn't we? With guys like Ziggy Niscott and Terry Fahey and Ross Harrington. They weren't your typical flyers that some of the teams had. They were quick, but they were power and they were big.
They were, and what Steve Roach is saying, he said that the best things about wingers is the other team has to have them as well. Yeah. That's one thing with us. When you had guys like that, they were just wanted to get in and run the ball.
Yeah.
Remember the first time wingers used to have to come in and take it off the tap? The forwards would be salivating to try and get hold of it.
I remember young Craig Carrington, and he would never make eye contact with me when I was going to do the tap. Pretend he couldn't hear me all of a sudden. Had blinkers on.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. There's thinking back to that era, have you finished your list there?
Yes,
Hello?
mate. Yes, I think so, yeah.
So Shannon took a couple of mine, but thinking back to that era, I remember a great try scored by Eric Groth. Can't remember who it was against or what game it was in, but it was
against Canterbury.
Yeah, and it was similar to Greg's one where he ran across field and he just bumped off player after player after player and ran over the top of them to score a great try.
It was at the SCG.
Yeah.
It was the prelim final,
right.
I'm pretty sure. He was running to the southern end of the SCG into the old Sheridan stand.
Yeah.
and he came across field from the right, and Steve Mortimer chased him, finally tackling around the legs as he got the ball.
As he got over the line, yeah. I remember that one from that era. Great era of football. So my four were the George Burgess try in the grand final. My second one was another Greg Inglis try against the Broncos in 2014. So we played him twice.
Yes.
We played him once up there where he scored that magnificent try, and then he scored another one in Indigenous round down at Stadium Australia in 2014. Adam Reynolds put up a short bomb. GI chased it through. He collected it on the right side of the field. He bumped off the fullback. I can't remember who the Broncos fullback was, but he...
Neither can he.
But he put him on his back. Greggy then got wrapped up. He offloaded the ball to Sam, keeping him on that Greg's on the right-hand side of the field doing this. He's offloaded the ball to Sam in front of the post. Sam's carried about 3 or 4 for 15, 20 metres. He got his arms free, was looking for someone to offload the ball to. He's offloaded out to the left, and it was GI that was there to take it. It was absolutely phenomenal because Greg had ended up on his back on the right side of the field after he'd taken the bomb, and he somehow got up off the turf, circled back around, and was there to back up Sam, and came through and did the famous Goanna try celebration. Just amazing athleticism from a big man playing fullback.
And Sam, I don't think Sam could even see him there. I think Sam just felt him there.
Yeah.
And just threw the ball up in the air as if give him time to run onto it. It was, that was a good try.
Yeah, amazing from Greg. And my last one, I'm surprised neither of you said it. I'm just going to play this little bit of audio and we'll see the reaction. Warren Smith has provided me with one of the great memories of my rugby league career and just life in supporting the game. That was 2012 against the Sydney Roosters at the Sydney Football Stadium. And the story goes back to the first time we played them. That was round 19. I think it was round 2 or 3. They played us at home at ANZ Stadium, and they did it to us. They scored 2 tries in the last 4 minutes to beat us. Nathan Merritt had scored a try just before that to give us a sniff. We were 4 points behind. It was 22-18, and there were seconds left on the clock, and that happened. And Renault scored the try in the end, but the work was done well before that. People talk about Dave Taylor and the skill that man had. He took the ball in the northeast corner of Stadium Australia, of the Sydney Football Stadium that night, and he had the vision to go the blind side with his run off the kickoff. So it was a length of the field run. He's found Chris McQueen, who then made a massive bust upfield, and unbelievably, a team like the Roosters had a broken defensive line off a kickoff. I just don't know how they allowed that to happen. Nathan Merritt then made the next bust off the offload of McQueen. He must have run 40, 50 metres himself. Then he found Isaac Luke, and Isaac was out there on his own. He didn't have anyone left with him. The defence was converging. His little legs were pumping away towards the post, and he got caught, and I'm sitting there thinking, he's been caught. That is so close. And next thing, he throws the ball over his head, and it bounces on the ground, and here comes little Renault with his little legs pumping, and he scoops it up and scores next to the post. Now, that night, I was working with a guy called Pat Brady, who used to work in our digital team. It was me and him working in digital. And he said to me that night after the game, he said, I think you might have broken my shoulder. Because I stood up and I'm hitting him on the shoulder and I'm saying, that's why we work in rugby league, mate. What a moment. And I think one of the things lost on everyone was Renault still had to kick the goal.
Yeah. Really?
That was only 22 all.
Yeah,
he still had to calm himself down and kick the goal. Now, if you get the opportunity to watch the vision of that, after you've marvelled at the actual try, watch it again and watch the crowd behind them, because everyone's sitting down thinking this game's over with only seconds to go when he takes the kick. But when he gets the ball to McQueen, then McQueen gets it to Nathan Merritt. As the camera pans upfield from left to right, you just see the crowd start to go as they start to get over in front of the Rabbitohs section, where the burrow and all that sit, and by the end of it, it is an absolute riot over there. I remember Greggy comes over, because all the boys ran to the fence and they're hugging people in the crowd. They had no idea who they were, just all big South fans and members, and everyone was loving life. Greggy came over and just started swinging high fives at people. I don't know how he didn't knock someone out. When you see he's just swinging his arms around, and everyone's ducking and diving or sticking a hand out to get a piece of GI. So that was amazing, that try. That'll stick with me forever too, that try.
Absolutely. That'll be part of our history forever. You know, just talking about it, as you said, I just listen for the audio. I could see Ello start beaming, and I started beaming. Whenever I see Rabbitohs members watching that footage, they come alive as something that all of us remember fondly. Yeah,
absolutely. No, great try there. And hopefully there's more of that sort of excitement to come, especially when you get a chance to beat the Roosters with 2 minutes to go and scoring 2 tries. I don't think it gets much better than that, but it was very good.
But we've got that, that's a good point, Jez. We've got the strike power this year, just on every edge. You go to the left, go to the right, even things are opening up in the middle. You've got a guy like Latrell chiming in, you've got Gags, you've got Cody Walker, you've just got all of these excitement machines, and it's so hard for the defensive sides to read because, it's often it's ad-lib football and it's just natural instinct. I don't remember us ever having as much strike power as we've got at the moment, Ella.
No, I agree, Shannon. It's, we showed some great signs last year. Just playing a little bit different where we have been, but we just play that way now. There's a little bit of off-the-cuff stuff. There's a little bit of, I wouldn't call it structured, but just sort, shapes are in place that it can do. But as we shape, as you know, Shannon, there's 4 or 5 different options in one shape. So it's, that's what they're aware of as well. But as you say, that attacking, potency that we have is becoming even more important for us. And the oppositions are struggling because our defence has been so good as well.
Yeah.
So, we defend them. We don't have to score as many tries, and what's happening at the moment, we're defending a lot better and scoring the same amount of tries. So, it's a good mix, and I think, the players can bounce up from anywhere and score a try. I mean, look at even Mark Nichols' improvement. Mark Nichols has always been a great player for us. He's one of our unsung heroes. There's no doubt about that. But now what he's doing when he's near the try line. He's got footwork, he's got a dummy, he's got an offload that puts the opposition under pressure. And what that does, it holds the middle forwards in, and if he can get rid of the ball, it gives us more space out wide. So it's things like that, as you say, even in the middle area of the field. It's a credit to the coaches to get the boys playing like they are.
Yeah, I guess a special mention for a try too. It won't go down in the annals as one of the most historic tries that we've ever scored, but it really showed the skills of Latrell Mitchell. Was the try that he put on for Cody Walker in the Charity Shield this year. People talk about Latrell being a triple threat with his pace and his power and then his deft touch, his passing game, but he showed all three in one 5-second movement to put Cody away for that try on the right-hand side where he used his pace to get outside his man, he used his power to push through 2 or 3 defenders, get his arm free, and then he passed the ball around behind the back of another defender to find Cody.
He held it up first too, didn't he?
It was amazing to what I remember. I was sitting on the sideline and just going, "Holy hell!" That is so special to be able to do that and to be able to pull that off. And he gets so many comparisons to Greg because of his build and his size and his power game and all that sort of stuff. But in that try, I saw so much John Sutton. The way he held that ball up high, then he brought it back down, got the ball around behind the back of another guy. Like I always used to call Sutto the magician because he could just pull magic out of anywhere to be able to put something on, and it showed in that part of the play. And I don't know whether Latrell has been working with Sutto specifically at training on any of that sort of stuff, or if it just came to him at the time with his own natural skill levels, but it just had John Sutton written all over it, the way he put that try on for Cody.
I think it was the first try against the Roosters when they went down Cody was a dummy half. Well, no, Cody wasn't a dummy half, but the ball got to Latrell on the short side. And Latrell looked like the fake on the outside and just popped it up on the inside to Cody. He was just there. I mean, that's remarkable skill.
It
you know,
is.
And it just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And what we're remembering, what we're talking about here is the skill of the team together. The longer they play together, the better it'll get.
Yeah,
and there's no doubt about that.
I heard him describe that try after the game, and it shows you how quick these guys are thinking too. So he said he got the ball there. Either Latrell was a dummy half or he was just off to the side, and he got the ball. And he said, I saw Joey Manu at marker. He said, and I've known Joey since we were kids. He said, I knew he'd want to try and put a hit on me.
Yeah.
So I just headed the short side, went towards the sideline, knowing he'd follow across and leave the hole.
Yeah.
And I've just thrown the flick pass to Cody, and Cody was good enough to be there and score. Now, there wouldn't have been any verbal communication because he's at marker. They would have known exactly what was going on if there was verbal communication.
Yeah.
The defensive line, that was all in instinct and knowing where each other's going to be. And Latrell and Cody got a great understanding between each other without having to say anything.
Yeah, those combinations are, already gelling really, really well, and they're just going to get stronger. And, you spoke about some of that instinctive stuff for Latrell. I was fortunate enough to play with his old man, Matty, for about 3 years here in the junior reps at South and come through to grade and play against him at schoolboy footy. And Matty was one of the most naturally gifted footballers I'd ever seen. And I see a lot of Matty in some of the things Latrell does, but Latrell's obviously taken it to a whole nother level again. Matty, to be fair, Matty should have been a regular first grader and probably played first grade and rep footy at NRL level, but I think he got homesick and he just went home. And I know Trell suffers from homesickness at time, and Indigenous families have a really close kinship, and that's somewhat understandable when they're from the bush heading down to the city. But had Matty stayed, I reckon he might have hit some of the same heights as well.
No, very good. Well, that was a great first top four topic there. We will be back in a moment. We talk about it every week, the official Rabbitohs merchandise store. It's located now at the Heffron Park Tennis Centre on Bunnerong Road in Maroubra. They've got all the new gear in there from classic sportswear and all the supporter gear as well. So if you're looking for a jersey or a polo shirt, a T-shirt, a hat, a flag, anything that you can think of, make sure you head down to Heffron Park and see the merchandise team down there, and they'll help you out. And it's right near where our new high performance and community centre is going to be located in the heart of Maroubra there. So you can head down and see the team, try on your jerseys or your polo shirts, make sure you get what you need ahead of the games coming up, particularly the ones at Stadium Australia, or you can shop online if you can't get down to Heffron Park Tennis Centre at shop.rabbitohs.com.au. And is there any new gear coming in this week, Shannon?
There certainly is. The Cotton On range has just landed, Jez. So it's a huge range. It's at a really affordable price point for everybody. There's lots of women's, girls, unisex gear in there, and the Cotton On range proves very popular. We sell over 40 of the NRL clubs. The NRL licensed Cotton On we sell over 40% of their gear. So
wow.
the Rabbitohs stuff is very, very popular. So I encourage all of our members and supporters to jump online or get to the store at Heffron and check out the new Cotton On range.
And what's our relationship like with Cotton On? Because I spend a hell of a lot of money at Cotton On kids. Every time I'm at East Gardens, I'm in there spending money.
It's a great relationship, and you made it even stronger, Jez. Well done.
You won't be there for a couple of weeks after you went to the show yesterday.
That's it. I know. I'm not going anywhere near the shops or my debit card. My debit card hates me at the moment. But make sure you visit shop.rabbitohs.com.au or head down to the Heffron Park Tennis Centre at Bunnerong Road in Maroubra to check out all the latest merchandise. Now, our second top four topic of the morning, top four people that you would invite to a barbecue at your place. And we'll start with you this time, Ello, because I know you love a backyard barbie.
Well, I certainly wouldn't invite Shannon because there'd be nothing left to eat.
That was an easy
alley-oop play. I put it up there, and Ello comes through with a slam dunk.
So predictable.
Yeah, but you wrote the notes for me on that. No, it's there's a lot of people you'd like to have at a barbecue. I joked before we came on, Jez, to you about having Halle Berry there. I'd like to have her at a barbecue, but I know it'll never happen because Raylene won't let her come into the house.
She's sick of Halle ringing you up, isn't she?
You might have to get Josh to bring her around for the barbecue.
No, I go back. I was always a massive fan of Greg Norman. He was just when I was, he coming through. I was played a bit of golf as a young kid and getting to the teenage years and that. He was just making it big on the golfing circuit worldwide, and with him, he's in an era where marketing was big and things like that, and he just had everything. He could sell to everywhere. He had his own brand, the Shark label and things like that, and he was a great golfer, obviously, and unfortunately probably didn't win the majors that he should have, it just reminded me because it's coming up. It's actually 25 years since the US Masters where Faldo beat him, and I was just reading something about it yesterday, and but I just thought he'd be great to talk to, the young Australian kid that's come good.
Which version of Greg Norman would you have at your barbecue? Would you have the 1980s version or would you have the current day version? Because I think he's a bit out there these days.
Oh,
the Shark doing nude photo shoots. And
I preferred it back in the 80s, mate. The music was better and we might have got him up bopping on the dance floor or something at the time. But he's definitely changed a little bit.
Did you meet him when we went to Jacksonville? He was at the game.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. But I didn't have a lot of time that day.
No.
But, I met him briefly, yeah. So that was a big moment. But I think just to have him over, he probably could have improved my golf game as well, which would have helped. But, it was funny. Before I come on, I couldn't think of the people because there's so many people you'd like. And on an emotional point, you asked the question, Daryl, I'd love to have Dad back for a barbecue, So, but, that's, you miss your old man, as we spoke about last week, Shannon. But it'd be great to have him back for a barbecue one day. I'd have loved to have Paul Keating over. I just
Shannon would be hanging over the back fence.
He's just talk about taking one of your people. He just took mine.
You took 3 of my tries, Shannon. I just think he's one of the great prime ministers that we've had, and I just he'd get up in Parliament and he just had all the one-liners and the one with Houston, I'll do you and I'll do you slowly, things like that. But he just encapsulated what Australians are like, being witty against each other and being sarcastic. But there's a lot of sarcastic humour in Australia, and particularly on this show, I must say.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And he has a bit of a distant link with the Rabbitohs. He gave one of his famous speeches in Redfern Park, right next door to Redfern Oval, and there's a plaque there in Redfern Park to show that happened there. And so there's a nice little tie in there, LA.
Yeah, and probably another one, the great Arthur Beetson. As a kid, I grew up, watching the footy, and he looked like a good bloke as well as a great footballer. You hear about all the games, the Euchre games, and he likes a pie, he likes a beer and things like that. But he just loved rugby league, and he went on after he played and became recruitment, albeit for the Roosters. But he was the focal point that everyone remembers about the first Origin. He could hardly run on the field that night. His knees were that bad, but it's the iconic moment of the Origin where it all started, and there was Big Artie coming on the field, and I think he'd be a great bloke and great company to have at a barbecue at your place.
Yeah, he would be very good. You'd have to put some pies on.
Yeah, that's okay.
Not just the steak and the sausages.
That's probably why I want to bring him over.
It's amazing that you excluded Shannon for the same reason.
Yes.
Over to you, Shannon. Who's coming over to Vaucluse or wherever you live at the moment?
Sleep in the cellar here at South Juniors.
The Prime Minister will be coming over. He's his next door neighbour, Kirribilli.
Please. Help a brother out over here, please. The first one is a man who's very close to the Rabbitohs. He's actually the mayor of Mudgee, and that's the great Des Kennedy. Des, fantastic fella. And the reason I invite him, beside the fact that he's exceptional company, he loves beer. He owns 2 pubs in Mudgee. He loves beer. He loves food. He does the best Scotch fillets. Hello, we take the team there every year. He does the best Scotch fillets. They're about 4 inches thick, and they're fantastic. He loves footy, as I said, and he loves racing. So beer, food, footy, owns a couple of pubs. He could stock the barbecue up, so he'd be the first in line every time.
When did you change your name to Des Kennedy?
I might be an illegitimate child down the track. We've got a lot in common.
Knowing Des also, there's not a lot of people in life that when you first meet them, you feel like you've known them for many, many years, and you see him in a conversation and in a gathering of people. He's like that with everyone.
He's
and
a great guy.
It's a great thing that he's got as a person to be able to have that ability.
Yes.
But
he's a big supporter of the club. He is the reason why we take the Charity Shield to Mudgee, because it was partially his brainchild. He funds it through the Midwest Regional Council. Our members and our sponsors love it. It's become a real fixture on our calendar. So a great supporter of the Rabbitohs as well as being a good guy, Des Kennedy.
I think he was edging to get a run at the Charity Shield. Hello, he was sitting on the bench in the second half. I think he was waiting for you to look across and go, Kennedy, you're on. Kennedy, warm up.
His son Ben wasn't a bad player either, actually. He played for the Raiders and a few other clubs. He was very good. No, that's not his son.
I was going to say, I didn't know that was his son.
I actually played with Des's brother at the Sharks back in '85.
Oh,
Paul
right.
Kennedy, PK, nickname, yeah.
Yeah, right. How'd he go?
He's pretty good, mate. He was unfortunate. He played behind Barry Russell. So Barry Russell sort of got the jump, but he played a bit of first grade. And he'd obviously played more if Barry wasn't there. And that was the time when I think Barry was a Dally M halfback of the year. So
Very good.
yeah, so it was amazing when we caught up first time at Mudgee. So, well, anyway, that relationship should be going for another 10 years after that, Shannon. Well done.
It sounds like Shannon's happy to have a one-on-one intimate date with Des, but do you want to invite 3 more people?
Anytime, Desi boy. Anytime. Another one, and this isn't because I'm overly religious or anything, but it's Jesus. Like, how good would it be to have Jesus and just pick his brains on all things? Who's going to win the Melbourne Cup next year? And, but just the life he lived. You couldn't have him on Good Friday, of course, because he's having a barbecue on Good Friday.
You get him late on Easter Sunday.
Easter Monday. Easter Monday. It was.
I've got to say, I have a strong relationship with him on Wednesday mornings when it's Shannon's turn for Joke of the Week. Please, Jesus. Please make sure it's clean.
Yeah. But honestly, in all the world's, I was thinking about the historical figures from, the history of the world. You'd have to get him and just... he could also turn water into wine and do all of those kind of things. That'd be a cheap barbecue.
How would he get along with Des?
Oh, yeah.
You don't eat fish, Shannon. That'd be no good for you.
Actually, I reckon him and Des get on really well because I hear Des calling his name out all the time and he's not happy. Yeah. So there is Jesus. My third one, and Jesus could probably help me with this because he's passed now. But my old man, I wouldn't mind getting my old man back for a beer. He loved a beer and a joke and a bit of a laugh. And I hope he's with Jesus at the moment. I hope he's not at the other end because he was a bit of a scallywag, the old man.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be there after that.
I gave up on that years ago. So it'd be good to have the old man back as well. And you mentioned Paul Keating, who I think was one of Australia's greatest ever prime ministers. And the other one was the great Bob Hawke. He loved the beer, he loved the joke. Was great company. I happened to be fortunate enough to go to about 3 luncheons towards the end of his life, Bob. And even, at his late 80s or early 90s, whatever he was at that stage, he was still exceptional company and singing songs and telling jokes and drinking. And, he's famous for sculling those beers at the cricket and, having the sculling records over in the UK. So obviously liked a really good time and did amazing things for Australia. So it's a pretty eclectic list when you think about it. Des Kennedy, Jesus, my dad and Bob Hawke, but it'll be a very interesting barbecue, I think.
Very good. Very good. Well, my four that I had, my number 4 was Jonah Lomu. I was a big fan of Jonah Lomu growing up, and I had the opportunity to meet Jonah in 2014 when we were in Auckland for the Nines. Were you on that?
Yeah, I was.
trip?
Yeah.
And all the boys came back after the first day's play, and they took them off to the pool for a recovery session. They were going to be about an hour before they came back to the team room to have their dinner. And I was in there. I was a one-man band that trip for media, so I was setting up our video camera to do some interviews with a couple of the boys for our website after the game. And I'm there setting up the camera, and the door opens, and this guy pops his head through, and he says, "Oh, is this the Rabbitohs room?" And it was Jonah Lomu. And I said, "Oh, yeah, it is." And he said, "Oh, I'm here to meet Michael Maguire." I said, "Oh, I'll come in. Madge won't be far off. I'll send him a text." And Madge was upstairs with his birthday cake that said, "Happy birthday, Madge."
I was just about to say that.
What a great story that is. After I finish this, we'll tell that one. So Jonah comes in, and I've rung Madge, and I said, "Oh, Madge, Jonah Lomu's here." He said, "All right, I'll come down." So Madge came down, and I'd finished setting up my camera. It was just the three of us sitting around the table just talking about the day's play, about life, about everything Jonah was going through with his medical treatments, and he was talking about the All Blacks. And me, it was myself, Madge and Jonah for about 45 minutes, and I was just in heaven, like getting the opportunity to talk to these two sporting brains and people that had achieved so much. So Madge so far in his career with his success in Super League, and there was obviously more to come at the end of that season, but Jonah, everything that he'd achieved in his career, I was just, you don't get awestruck too often. The novelty of meeting people like that wear off when you've been in the game for 20 years, but that'll stick with me forever, having that opportunity to sit down and talk with Jonah and Madge for that period of time. So I'd have Jonah Lomu at my barbecue. I'd have Pat Cash from the late 80s. Cashy was my favourite Australian sportsman of all time. When he won that 87 Wimbledon, it was when I was playing tennis in the junior ranks as a kid, and I just absolutely idolised him. At home now, I've got a framed, signed Pat Cash headband up at my house. I just, the stuff that he achieved back then and the way that he led Australian tennis and world tennis, I think, because he was only a young bloke when he was taking on the likes of Stefan Edberg and the Swedes in the Davis Cup, and he was leading the way. He was only 18, 19 years of age, and that famous checkered headband and everything that he was doing at the time, I just loved Pat. And a few years ago, actually, Pat was being interviewed by Dan Ganane on Triple M, and so I text Dan while he was on the show, and I just said, he's my favourite player. Would he love to become a Rabbitohs member? Because he's a big Hawthorn man. And Dan actually brought it up with him on air, and Pat said, "Oh, look, I'm not too invested in the Rabbitohs at the moment, but perhaps I could down the track, but I'm a Hawthorn man," all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I don't care. Pat Cash has been talked to about me. This is amazing.
He shouldn't be coming barbecues if he's not invested in the Rabbitohs.
No, that's where I was going to present him with his membership there. So Cashy from the 80s, I'd have him along. I'd have Nelson Mandela come along. The stories that I've read and heard about that man are just phenomenal. And back in 2013, I think it might have been, or 14, I had the opportunity to go to Cape Town in South Africa, and we visited Robben Island, which was the island where the jail was, where all of the black prisoners were put unjustly, as it's since been shown. And they told us the story of Nelson Mandela and the people that were with him, and all the tour guides on Robben Island. It amazes me. So that's not a jail anymore. It's actually a thriving community. Right. It's off the coast of Cape Town. But all the tour guides for all the tourism are ex-prisoners of Robben Island.
Right.
So the guy that was taking us around was in jail.
They couldn't get enough of the joint, eh?
Well, so they've all been given houses and jobs on the island. So they've gone from being in prison there unjustly to being able to set up a life.
Still,
and,
God.
Well, they all seem to like it.
Obviously.
All a result of him.
All as a result of him.
And I thought about that, having him at the barbecue as well at my place, but
wasn't enough food to go around.
The book that he wrote, The Long Walk to Freedom, which is a massive book, he wrote in jail, and he used to hide the manuscripts in the bushes in the yard because if the guards found it, they would have destroyed it. And the photos that you see up there, so there were white prisoners and there were black prisoners on the island, and the white prisoners, they had photos, and the white prisoners, because it gets quite cold out there, were in long sleeve shirts, long pants. They were given socks and shoes and all that sort of stuff. And all the black prisoners were there they were lucky to have T-shirts, or they had their T-shirts taken from. They were in shorts and no shoes.
Oh, terrible.
And they showed the different living conditions where the white prisoners had bunk beds in their cells and in their enclosures. And the black prisoners had to sleep either on the ground or on a mattress that was about an inch thick.
Oh,
it was amazing. And what he went through, they showed you his cell, and in the cell it was tiny. It would have been 2 meters by 3 meters. There was a bed and there was a red bucket, and the red bucket was their toilet. They had to take their red bucket out to the yard with them, and empty the red bucket and clean the red bucket. And if they took it out to the yard, because they got an hour a day or something outside, if they took it out to the yard and something happened and they weren't able to clean their bucket, they either took their dirty bucket back in for the next 23 hours, or if they forgot it, they went without the bucket.
Disgraceful.
It is disgraceful. It was disgusting.
Just the ultimate sacrifice, a man being in prison for just standing up for what he truly believed in.
That's right.
He changed the life of South Africans forever.
Big time.
And, it cost him his marriage. It cost him everything throughout the whole journey.
Yep.
And that's, like, we talk about people standing up for what they believe in.
Yeah.
He's the person you go to if ever you needed something in the back of your mind to keep you going.
Yeah.
I can think of nothing worse than being in prison for standing up for something you truly believe in and you're right.
And I was thinking about
what about having to live there for the next 20 years after you get back out?
But it was better than what they were living in before.
Yeah, that's right. They've actually been given a life, because I think they realised that if they went back to the mainland, they probably weren't going to get the opportunities that they were able to get on there. And it's actually a thriving little community now on that island, and just it's an amazing place to go. If you ever get the chance to go to Cape Town, make sure you do the Robben Island tours, because it just sums everything up for you. And it actually came to mind because you mentioned Invictus last week in our movies chat, and what he did, the way that he was treated, you could understand a man being bitter and twisted, but he put all that aside personally to lead South Africa into a new world. Yep. And that 1995 World Cup that was held in South Africa was the thing that brought that whole nation together and the whole world back to South Africa, because the world had brushed South Africa through apartheid, and everyone had turned their back on them, and he was the man that brought them back. And it's not like they're a small nation. They're a large nation, and I'd love to have him at the Barbie. And could you imagine the conversation he and Jonah would be having about the 95 World Cup at my barbecue?
Well, talking about the apartheid situation, I remember as a kid, I mean, it was in the early 70s, South Africa came out to play in Australia, and it was sort of a no-no in world sport back then. And there were, groups protesting at the SCG, people coming on and lighting fires on the hill. They actually had barbed wire around the whole SCG.
Wow.
On top of the picket fence to stop people coming on the field. It was, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand it then, but I just remember seeing on the news, it was black and white, by the way, but seeing these protests, I remember it.
Yeah.
At the SCG now, they've still put up the barbed wire and the picket fences at the SCG, and that's to stop the Roosters members from leaving early, actually, I believe.
They'd only need sort of 2 by 2 metres worth of barbed wire, wouldn't they, to keep them both in there?
Stop the Roosters members leaving, both of them. Yeah.
They call it the chook pen, don't they?
So Nelson Mandela would be my third, and my last one, I think we need some laughs, so I'd invite Jerry Seinfeld along. I was lucky enough a few years ago to go and see him in concert when he came out here, and his television show is one of the greatest of all times, the comedy and the humour in that. So I definitely have Jerry Seinfeld along to tell a few jokes, but also to see what he's like away from the spotlight, to see if he's just a naturally funny man or whether he turns it on for the show, and he keeps himself pretty demure outside of that. I think it'd be really interesting. So
just an aside on that, one of our former players, Luke Kelly, who now works with us in HR and wellbeing, he was over in the States at the end of I think it was 2 seasons ago, and he went to a stand-up comedy place and sitting down, and 10 minutes into the act, when the first act went off, Jerry Seinfeld walked down on the stage unannounced and did an act for about 20 minutes. It must have been just getting ready for a big event or something.
Yeah.
But truly, he was just in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, amazing.
Seinfeld's come out and he's been able to see him live.
Geez, Kel he's kept that quiet around the office. I'll have to ask him
He
about
said he
that.
wasn't very funny, Jess.
Bit like yellow. Hey, Jez.
I can't take this anymore.
Jez, see, that's your 4,
That's
is it?
my 4.
All right, I just got to critique and pick you up on a few things.
Yep.
First of all, just tip for when you're having a barbecue. Never invite Kiwis to the barbecue.
Right.
They always leave love bites in the leg of lamb. So never, ever. Now, also, when you talk about Pat Cash and invite, the Roosters are the only ones that like cash at a barbecue.
Right.
Okay, so so keep that one. And the Robben Island conditions, they sound terrible, but mate, I grew up in Wallumaloo, I tell you. We had it tough. My mate had a house that was that dirty, had to wipe his feet to go outside. Honestly, it was terrible. The house was so small, he had to go outside to change his mind. It was, mate, we were that poor when we were growing up in the Lure. We used to go to KFC and lick other people's fingers. That's So, it's terrible about Robben Island.
Well, I think we'll leave it. There's a few other ones you might have come up with, but that'll be for after 9 p.m. tonight.
I'll park
That's
it there.
why Shannon Donato's not invited to either of our barbecues.
I had one for Jerry Seinfeld. I'll let it go.
Yeah. Very good. Well, that was good fun, and let's hope those barbecues come off one day. Now, Rabbitohs Plus, it's a great new initiative from the Rabbitohs which provides services for Rabbitohs members and supporters that they use every day. There's travel deals, home and contents insurance, credit cards, car insurance, home loans, all sorts of products available on Rabbitohs Plus, and they can provide you and your family with great deals. So to check it all out, you visit plus.rabbitohs.com.au, and it's going along great guns, isn't it, Shannon?
It is proving very popular with our members and supporters. And now, as Alo said earlier, with the travel restrictions up, I definitely encourage everybody to go on and use the What If travel link there, where there's 15% off hotel stays and flights for Rabbitohs members.
Very good, yes. Rabbitohs Plus, visit plus.rabbitohs.com.au. It's trivia time, gents. Homework time. Let's see how they go. The trivia question from last week. How many Burgesses have played men's grade football for the Rabbitohs since 1908? And hint, not all of them have played first grade. There's stunned silence here as they look at each other.
First today for James.
I don't mind. Who wants to chime in first?
I'll say it 8.
8?
I'm saying 9.
9. 8, 9. The answer is 6.
Oh, okay.
So there was Sam Burgess, who played 182 first-grade games for the club. Thomas Burgess, he's played 166 so far and still going. George Burgess played 161 grade games with us, including 149 first-grade games, 1 reserve-grade game and 11 third-grade games in the 20s. Luke Burgess played 51 first-grade games for South. Then, of course, we had another English Burgess in Joe Burgess, who played 9 first-grade games for South Sydney in 2016. And the final one is Wally Burgess, who played 1 third-grade game for South back in 1956. So there were 6 Burgesses that have played for South.
So the 4
Or
brothers...
Burgeye, as we had the discussion last week.
So the 4 Burgess brothers and Joe, 5. So just recently, up until then, in our 113-year history, there was 1 Burgess.
1.
Very disappointed. Because I love Burgess. I mean Burgess.
Very good. Now, our trivia question for next week, along the same theme, how many people with the surname Ellison have played first, second, or third grade football for South Sydney since 1908? So we'll get the answer for that next week. But
is it played well or just played?
I just turned nuts at
Obviously.
You only need to run out there to get credited with a game. You only need to run out there. There was a player we had back in the early 2000s who made an art form of it. But I don't want to give him a rap.
He did his best work in the tunnel.
Anyway, we'll give you the answer to that one.
I resemble that
week.
remark.
We'll give you the answer to that one next week, but I'm hoping Ello gets it right. Now, if you're looking for your next epic holiday, maybe a long weekend with your mates, or you really need to get to the next game, then it's time to What If It. What If has great deals on accommodation, flights, car hire, and more. Plus, because they're the official travel partner of the Rabbitohs, you can head to whatif.com/Rabbitohs and use the promo code Rabbitohs15 to save 15% on select hotels. Now, conditions apply with that offer, but make sure you head to whatif.com/Rabbitohs. Use the promo code Rabbitohs15 to save that 15% on select hotels. What If, it's Aussie for travel, and as we say each week, it's great to have What If on board. They support so many different areas of our club, the pathways as well, but I think their most important partnership with the club is of the Rabbitohs podcast network.
Oh, without a doubt, Jez, without a doubt. The money well spent for
the
them.
jerseys, forget being on anything else. It's right here where they're getting their value.
Well, I can tell you they're getting return on investment because I've got 20 mates who are using it, and I encourage all of our members to do the same. We're going up, we play the Gold Coast, the Titans, in just over 2 weeks, and it happens to be on the Anzac Day weekend, so it's a great weekend to be on the Gold Coast. We play the Titans on the Friday night, Anzac Day on the Sunday, and I've heard there's some Gold Coast races on the Saturday apparently, so I encourage all members to use the What If voucher, get up and cheer us on to belt the Titans in a couple of weeks.
Very good, righto. What If? It is Aussie for travel. I breathe a little easier when I look at my run sheet and see Ello's joke of the week as opposed to Shannon's. Let's see what Ello has got to deliver after they've all bagged Jerry Seinfeld.
I thought it was Shannon's joke of the week. I should have read the run sheet. Anyway, let's come up with something. I had a guy I used to go to school with, and he was one of 4 brothers, and his parents did a bit tough. They lived in a 2-bedroom unit, so the parents obviously had one room, and the boys all slept in the one. It was a king size bed, so they had a bit of room to move. But they, getting older, but a big problem he had. One of his brothers was a terrible bedwetter, so he used to get sick of it every night. His brother.
I can imagine.
He went to bed and he'd be stuck in there. He got sick of going on the floor because of it, anyway. So anyway, one night he's got out and he thought, I'm going to sleep on the lounge, right? So he's gone out and he's put the TV on the lounge. He's got the whole lounge to himself. So there's only 3 brothers in the bed anyway. He's lying there. He's fallen asleep in front of the TV, and his mum comes out. Wakes him up and said, Johnny, what are you doing? Oh, he said, no, I'm just sleeping out here. I don't want to go back in there. Patrick always pisses the bed, and she said, look, you've got to go back in the bed. She said, you can't sleep out here. It's too uncomfortable. Which end of the bed would you like to go? He said, the shallow end, please.
Oh, dear. Very good. I hope that's not a true story. Very good. We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up. Well, thank you again, everyone, for listening. It's our 7th episode, as we said at the start. They said we wouldn't make it, but 7, I think, is a pretty good strike rate so far. You can contact us with topic suggestions, as Triff81 did. You can fill out the form at rabbitohs.com.au/podcasts, or contact us via Twitter and at SSC SSFC Rabbitohs, tripping over my tongue there, on Twitter and let us know what topics you'd like to hear each week. Don't forget to write us a glowing review and give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts, and hit that subscribe or follow button to make sure that the podcasts download automatically every week. And don't forget to tune into our other podcasts on the Rabbitohs podcast network, including our media conferences leading up to games. There's also the audio version of the Rabbitohs Insider, and the one not to miss each week is the Rabbitohs Radio podcast with chaps Mavo and Brownie. They had a great interview last week with Les Davidson. They work with Davo at the Wharves, and they sat down with him in one of their breaks at the Wharves, and it was really good to hear from Davo about his memories of playing with the Rabbitohs and coming from Dubbo, where we're heading out later. And he mentioned that you've invited him out for the game, Shannon, and he'll be a part of the festivities out there when we play the Panthers in Dubbo later in the year.
He will be. He'll be on the field, hopefully doing a bit of Q&A with you, Jez, or whoever it is out on the
I'll
field.
get to take him through my trial on Apex Oval as well.
I'm sure he'll be as riveted as the rest of us were.
You want to hope he doesn't want to tackle you, Jess.
I'll put some no-dos in his drink.
So the boys are doing a great job on the Rabbitohs Radio podcast. Great to have them involved. And what we're going to try and do is try and hook all 6 of us up for a podcast one week somehow with our roadcasters and Zoom and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. That's all in the planning at the moment. But we'll be back next week with more from the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, which is powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. And great to have you back again, Ella.
Yes, Jez. No, another great person and great past player. The club's going to be out at Dubbo too with his family. Great Kyle Turner contacted me the other day. He's going to be out at the game.
Fantastic. That's the big dog.
The big dog.
Yeah, the big dog.
Why they call him the big dog?
I don't know. Let's interview him on field and I'll ask him that and see how red his face goes.
Okay.
That is for after 9 a.m. 9 p.m.
Is it the same reason Ella's got the nickname of the cashew nut?
That was one of the great stitch-ups. I've got to say, Dave Tyrrell had a very, very dry sense of humour. And we had our weekly media conferences, and Kyle hadn't done one before, and Dave was up talking to the media beforehand, and he said, "Who's on next?" And I said, "Oh, Kyle, come over, mate," and introduced him. And they said to Tiz, they said, "Oh, what can we ask him about?" And he said, "Just ask him why they call him Big Dog." And poor Kyle, if there was a hole he could have crawled in, he would have crawled in it.
You know what? I'd be perpetuating that myth. I'd have an ad in the paper.
It'd have to be in the Herald.
The broadsheet. Very good. Very good. As we said, we'll be back next week with more from the Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. We will see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Support the club and visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs to book your next trip. Don't forget to use the code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off select hotels. Conditions apply. What If? It's Aussie for travel. Please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Up the Rabbitohs.